Ready, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 9:57, November 8th, 2013. We do have a quorum. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept the staff report into record?
I'll make a motion. We accept staff report into record.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then were there any corrections on the minutes? I did not see anything from the last meeting from the October 11th. If none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for October 11th, 2023.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We had 4 hearings from the last meeting, October 11th, that went in front of the county commissioners. And how did those go, Megan?
All of those did get approved. All the recommendations that were made by you guys got accepted and approved at the last meeting for the Kel Jasperson zone map amendment, the Amanda Allred zone map amendment, and both the Terry Fiesler variants for the access road and the double F subdivision.
Perfect. Good deal. All right. Well, we have 3 hearings this morning. We will go ahead and start with public hearing number 1, Cody Gray. It's a temporary use permit for a temporary dwelling.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I may have a conflict of interest with this, the next 2.
Okay.
I've done work for one of the people that are complaining about the project, so
Okay.
I will step out.
All right.
Madam Chair, also, one of the people that made the complaint I've worked with over the last 30+ years and still work
Okay.
with him, so I feel I should maybe step out also.
Okay. So we have 2 of our commissioners that are going to have a conflict of interest that are going to go ahead and remove themselves. We do still have 3 of us. So with our new regs that we just passed, will be a majority, so we can go ahead and continue. So we'll go ahead and continue with public hearing number 1.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. The first public hearing that we have today is a temporary use permit for a temporary dwelling. The property is owned by Cody and Brittany Gray, and Cody Gray is the applicant himself. And the legal description for the property in which we will be discussing today is Lot 7 of Ranch View Estates Phase 1. It's approximately just over 3 acres. The site address is 30 Firehill Basin Drive. And currently the property is zoned single family residential R1 and is located within the growth management area. Access to this property is directly off of Firehole Basin Drive, which is a county road. Green River Fire is the responding agency, and water is received from Jamestown Rio Vista Water District. Cody Gray has applied for a temporary septic permit with Sweetwater County Environmental Health, and there is also power serviced by Rocky Mountain Power. As you can see, everybody's familiar with where Ranch View is located. Both subdivisions up in this area are zoned R1, and it is surrounded by ag land to the north and the east, with the golf course being located directly to the south, which is zoned commercial and recreational services. Here is just a little bit of a zoomed up of the 2023 aerial, which we have showing Mr. Gray's property. And we'll jump right into the application summary. And if there are questions at the end of the presentation, I do have code enforcement specialist Jim Zimmerman here. He can stand for questions, and Eric Bingham here as well. Back on November 29th of 2022, there was a complaint we received from Mr. Andy Pleasant on that Cody Gray was storing an RV and other items on his vacant residential property prior to his primary structure being built. Mr. Zimmerman followed up with a complaint and issued a zoning violation letter. Was sent out on February 9th of 2023. Mr. Zimmerman was able to say that Cody's property was brought back into compliance, and Mr. Bingham and attorney Deputy Attorney John DeLeon also said that the 28-foot toy hauler that was on the property would be able to stay, as it was storing equipment that was covered under an approved grading permit that Cody had on his property. In May of this year, Cody came in and applied for a construction permit, and that was to build a residence with an attached garage. That was approved May 16th, and this permit is good for 18 months. And is set to expire the middle of next November. Near the end of August of this year, staff received another complaint from Mr. Andy Pleasant that Cody was living out of his RV and was using excuse me, an accessory structure prior to having his primary structure built. Again, staff went out and inspected the property and took pictures. On August 29th, staff called Cody into the office to discuss options to remedy Andy's complaint and to remedy the violation that he was under for having an accessory structure basically on his property. And this is the reason why we're here today. It's for this public hearing and the next one. I don't know what it is with me and public hearings that go together, but here we are. So this first public hearing is to deal with the temporary dwelling permit that has been requested. Cody is wanting to use the fifth well camper that is located on his property while he constructs his new home. He also would like to have the detached 12 by 20-foot covered porch that is set up next to this fifth well. Basically, it's a place where he uses to take a break while he's working on building his home. He is the general contractor for his house. He's building it himself. And yes, he does have a place, a primary residence that's located within Green River, but he also would like to be able to use his property while he's building his structure. And in discussions with Cody, he has requested a time period for the temporary dwelling to be allowed for 3 years. He believes it will take him 3 years to complete the building of his home and a detached garage. And because he's requesting basically an extended term and wanting to add the covered porch under this permit, that's why we're here today. Normally with a temporary dwelling permit, what we do is, per our regulations, we notify all adjacent property owners and we go out and post the property for 14 days. And then we wait to see if there's any complaints or concerns. If those concerns can be remedied, they get addressed at that time, and then staff can issue the permit for up to 2 years or when the primary construction of the house is completed. If there are concerns that can't be mitigated, then we come to a public hearing process. This is just kind of doing a jump on it because he was requesting basically just a little tweaking what is typically asked for with a temporary dwelling. Per section 8E3 of the Sweetwater zoning regulations, temporary dwellings must meet the following requirements. Used when a primary dwelling is being constructed or remodeled, providing a zoning permit for construction has been issued for the permanent dwelling unit. Temporary dwellings are approved for a period of 2 years, may be a manufactured home or recreational vehicle. The temporary dwelling must be connected to sewer, septic, and water systems as improved by environmental health or a water and sewer district. Recreational vehicles used for lodging for visitors for 14 days or less are exempt. Mr. Zimmerman did go out and properly post public notice on this property. And I also went out on the 1st of November, if I remember correctly, I believe that was last Tuesday or Wednesday, and took pictures just of what the site looks like now. You can see Mr. Gray has started on the foundation for his property. You can also see everything that is currently being stored on the property. The bottom left picture shows the fifth wheel and the covered porch that is being referred to for this temporary dwelling permit as well. And we'll jump straight into the 7 criteria that we staff considers when reviewing a temporary use permit. The first being the request shall not adversely affect adjacent property owners. Staff does not find that this will adversely affect adjacent property owners as it's temporary in nature. Timeframe conditions will be recommended to be put on the permit. Staff also recommends that this permit not be renewed or extended. Criteria number 2, the request is compatible with existing or allowable uses of adjacent properties. Temporary dwellings are allowed to be permitted via temporary use permit within an R-zone property per the district use chart. Criteria number 3, the request can demonstrate adequate provisions for maintenance of the use and associated structures. The fifth will not be hooked up to water or septic. Gray and black water will be hauled off to a proper disposal facility and water will be hauled to the property if needed. Criteria number 5, the request has minimized to the greatest degree possible adverse effects on the natural environment. The applicant will need to adhere to proper disposal methods of gray and black water as to not have negative effects on his own property. Staff does not see this as a problem. Criteria number 6, the request will not create undue traffic congestion. As everything that the applicant is doing is on his own property, we don't see any increase due to traffic. Criteria number 7, the request will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Staff does not foresee this request causing any adverse effects. The use will be contained to the applicant's own property. And criteria number 8, I think this is the most important criteria of all. Sweetwater County Zoning Resolution Section 4B1 states a permitted use or structure must be established on a lot or parcel before an accessory use or structure is allowed to be established or utilized. A structure is defined as a combination of materials above or below ground, artificially built or composed upon parts forming a building of any kind or joined together in some defined manner. Staff does consider the 12 by 20 foot covered porch being approximately 240 square feet to be considered a structure. Staff also finds that if the request is approved, it would then meet all applicable provisions of our Sweetwater County zoning resolution by conforming with section 4B2, which states only one permitted use shall be allowed per lot or parcel unless multiple uses are permitted through a conditional use, temporary use, or a major site plan process if applicable. When we put this out for public and agency comment, we received 2 comments back. The first being from Mr. Andy and Gail Pleasant. This is a residential lot, not an RV park to be used as a personal recreational site. A building permit is issued for 2 years, not 3. The other property owners in this subdivision have built their homes in a significantly less time than 2 years. The lot owners have a primary dwelling in the town of Green River. This should not be treated as a hardship living residence. County ordinance state that no garages or sheds shall be built until your primary residence has been built. Please refer this also to the next temporary use permit. The builders have a home in Green River as their primary dwelling. 3 years is in excess of all other building permits. As adjacent property owners, we feel that letting people live in their campers and erect storage sheds and a house and other campers in the subdivision are going to devalue everyone's property, plus set a precedence that anyone who buys a lot can put a few campers on it, build storage sheds, and live there for several years until they build the home. Please reference this with both permits. And Kathy Green, the City of Rock Springs planner, also commented, which we do thank her for going through and reviewing things. And even if they don't have any bearing on their jurisdiction, she mentioned that it is outside her 1 mile of review. The land use staff recommends approval of the temporary dwelling with the following conditions. Temporary dwelling shall include the 5th wheel camper with the 12 by 20 covered porch. The 3-year time frame shall begin from the approval date of the Board of County Commissioners or when construction of such primary dwelling has been completed, whichever comes first. At such time, the 12 by 20 covered porch will need to be permitted as an accessory structure via an approved construction permit. If the primary dwelling has not been completed within the above defined 3-year time period, the 12 by 20 covered porch will need to be removed completely from the property, and this permit cannot be extended or renewed. That's all I have, Madam Chair. We do Cody Gray is in attendance and Andy and Gail Pleasant are here as well.
Perfect. Mr. Gray, is there anything you would like to come up and add, or Mrs. Gray comment to the presentation?
Sure. I'm Cody Gray. This is Brittany Gray, my wife. And yeah, so we're getting to do the American dream, right? We're building our own home with our boys and our family. And
Odie?
Oh,
Can you speak
Yep,
directly? into
sorry,
the
we'll have you move the microphone. There you go. And
Okay.
because they can't
can you
hear
guys
you.
hear us now? Okay. So, yep. So we're building our own home and as our family and I feel like we're enabled that right to, yep. So we're enabled that, that right to have a place to stage, have a place to have lunch and eat and get out of the weather and have a place to store material. And the fact is we don't have a large crew, so we're not able to erect and create structure in a timely manner. So we have to stage material. I've got a couple $1,000s worth of forms that I don't want to set out all winter. I've got, $13,000 worth of insulated, styrofoam, the basement walls. I want to store that for the winter because I don't want that sitting outside. But so that's what we're asking for. And we don't feel like we're asking for is unreasonable. It's just reasonable within the tasks that we're trying to perform with the people that we have. So, and I think 3 years isn't unreasonable for us to build a house by ourselves that's 6,000 square feet. That's not outrageous task to ask for.
Does anybody have any? Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
do
Go
you
ahead.
have any
No,
questions?
go ahead. Yes.
I would
please.
also add that we're not living out there, that the other structure has been used for storage. And the reason why we've been out there is because, when you're working dusk to dawn to dusk, and we had a delay in our cement materials, it took some time and all of the dirt work, everything has been done by us. So we've needed to be out there for material delivery, et cetera. So we are not living out there. Our primary residence is in Green River. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the Grays at this time? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment if there is anybody in the audience that would like to say anything.
Thank you, board members. My name is Andy Pleasant. We have the adjacent property next to Cody and Brittany Gray's property. I do have some major concerns with this building use permit or special use permit. One, when we came in here several years ago on the subdivision development up there, this is a residential subdevelopment. It's a lot in a residential subdivision, not rural acreage. And when the subdivision was proposed before the county commissioners, one of the things in there was it's not going to be trailer houses. These are to be hand-built houses, stick-built homes, not trailer houses, not RVs. Now, I can understand the fact that people want to live in their RVs while they're right there building their house. But since the inception of that subdivision up there, in the last year, there's been 5 new homes built up there. One of them was built by a man and his wife that did it all by themselves right up there next to the golf course, and they got it performed in a year's time. So why the need for the temporary dwelling, other than the fact the things that we have observed is this property is adjacent to the river, it abuts to the river. So it's been used for a lot of recreational uses out there beyond just coming in to work on the house. Now, I'm not going to deny that Cody Gray's come down and he's worked hard putting in, digging a foundation, getting that done, getting a few other things done out there. But everybody else did their houses too, without living in their RVs and without having them set up there to get in out of the rain, to store their materials in. They're just like everybody else in the world. Should this permit be brought before the city of Rock Springs or the a subdivision in Green River, it would flatly be denied. You're not going to go live in your trailer house and enjoy the use of your property while you're building your house. Go build your house first, then start to use your property. And that's what everybody else has done out there in that subdivision is they've built their house, then they start to use their property. They become part of the community. Instead, we're doing this all backwards. We're trying to make temporary use permits for sewage, water, electricity, everything to accommodate RVs. If the amount of effort was put into building his home and finishing it up as what has been put into bringing these RVs in, putting porches next to them and et cetera, he'd probably already be 3/4 done with his house. And instead, here we are with temporary use permits for 3 years. Well, the other thing I look at when they talk about it's not going to devalue anybody's property out there, you guys all live in houses somewhere. What if your neighbor was putting up a home for 3 years and it was still under construction and the paper was flying out there for 3 years and they were living in their RVs next door to you and you went to sell your property? What would happen to you there and then? So these ordinances that the county's put in place are there to protect both the homeowners that are asking for this variance, plus the people that are next door to them. We all have rights to enjoy our property, but you got to do it where you don't violate other people too, is my opinion on it. So, you know, there's no need in this permit. It's 3 miles to town. Go back home at night. You don't need this temporary structure to live in, because this is the one we're dealing on right now, is the one on the trailer houses and not even the storage sheds yet. But the first things that have happened out there have been everything to accommodate for these trailer houses. And that's where, as was stated earlier about my complaints to the Jim Zimmerman about the aspect of why are they being allowed to use their property this way? And everything keeps coming back to these trailer houses. Well, weekends roll up, here they come, boats go in the water, we're out fishing. This is used as recreational use. It's not a campsite in the mountains. This is somebody's home. Take some pride in it and act like you're part of the community. Then us as community people, we have to contend with the aspect of four-wheelers running up and down the road and doing cookies and all kinds of different stuff out there because they're not part of the community. They're being allowed to live out there and they're not part of the community yet. There is no house built. And by going down and buying a $150 building permit does not guarantee or constitute that anything is going to get built for the next 3 years. So by doing this, we're also setting a precedence for every lot that's in that subdivision up above, that somebody can come out there and buy a lot, go get a $150 building permit, and come out there and park their campers on it for 3 years. Talking about. And so land is going to become tight, living conditions are going to become tight, and we're going to start setting a precedence out there for come out there and do whatever you want. This is not what I think everybody had envisioned for this subdivision. It's starting out as a nice subdivision. Let's keep it that way. I would ask that this board deny Mr. Gray's temporary use permit. And by doing that, you're going to make him go build his house and be like everybody else out there. Build your home and come out there and be part of the community. Otherwise, don't allow it because it's just going to drag on for 3 years. And then we're going to be crossing this bridge 3 years down the road. So that's my comments there, unless somebody has something they want to ask.
Does the board have anything for Mr. Pleasant? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to say anything?
About the temporary building.
Yes, correct. Yep, the next hearing will be about the temporary building. Yes, correct. Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public comment portion. Oh, you do? Okay. If you can state your name for the record.
Anita Bonder Ems. Do you want my address?
Nope, that's
Okay.
fine. Just your name. Thank you.
So we live in the neighborhood and the only issue I have with is the 3 year to build a home. My husband and I built a home also not here, but several years ago. And we did a lot of work ourselves, insulation, plumbing work, painting, et cetera. And it took us about 9 months. So I think 3 years is a bit much, you know, so that's the only comment I have about that part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Anita, how do you spell your last name?
that might be.
Capital V-O-N-D-E-R capital EMBSE,
EM,
B as in boy,
okay,
SE.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open it back up to the board for any questions, comments, concerns. I don't know that it's a concern comment. I know that 3 years has been brought up a couple times as a local real estate agent. I mean, we're seeing builders not completing houses under 1.5 years right now to 2 years. So building it yourself, I really don't think with constraints on getting materials, different things, that the 3 years is completely out of line. That's just my thought there.
I got a question for Eric. So basically, if we looking at this, what's the difference between this and the contractor? I mean, what do we require a contractor when he hauls a big rig out to a place where he's working, parks it, and then there's office building, his tool sheds, everything, you know, they haul these big units out to those workplaces.
Just to clarify your question, Madam Chair, Commissioner Richards, so there's really not a comparison there. So this is for in a residential zone district for a temporary dwelling unit or RV, okay? So, which we've issued many times, actually issued in this subdivision. If a contractor, I don't even think that's allowed by our regulations. So if, it just wouldn't be allowed. So the contractor would just go out there and work on the house. They wouldn't be living out there on the site.
Living, I
No,
guess Kelly's
no.
Well, and that's the part I'm looking at. I'm hearing it's a living place. I'm hearing it's not a living place. It's a trailer used for storage of, or do we got more than one trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cause I'm hearing a toy hauler for storing
Yes.
stuff, and then I'm just thinking a contractor van. Okay, you got your office where you can think of stuff, you can chill, relax, eat lunch and go to work.
Right.
You know, and then you got storage. So I'm not looking at this. That's what I'm trying to figure out, this so I can crash out on the weekends, or just
So,
trying to narrow down my view.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Richards, so what you're approving today is the RV to be on the property, so they can be used intermittently, whether he stays there 1 day a week or 5 days a week. We're not regulating that. We're regulating the use of there. I mean, so if this does go through, he could stay out there all the time if he wish
Okay,
wish
so
to.
it is a RV, not one. I was stuck on that with the toy hauler.
So just for clarification, and Megan did go over it, but there is 2 RVs on there. There's an RV, there's a toy hauler that's been out there when the grading permit was going on. And then that was tied, you know, as far as the storage of, I think he had a generator in there. Cody, you could explain that better than I can, but then another RV was brought on. We got a call from Mr. Pleasant that he had brought on another RV, and then we investigated it. And that's why we're here today, is to permit that. So there is, just for clarification.
There is.
Yeah, there is 2.
That clears it up.
Yeah, just another question for you, Eric. I know that we've done this before because I currently have a neighbor that is living in their trailer as they're constructing their home. And yeah, looking at how that process is going, it's moving pretty slowly. And it's nothing I'm excited about. But it is something that we've allowed, and believe me, at one point when I was going to construct, my thought was I was going to take my ability and be able to do that and construct a house. And I at that time I had a 5-year plan. It changed. And so then I ended up having to go a different route, which included me putting a modular on so that I could get it done quicker and make that happen. But I did have that opportunity where I felt that I wanted to do that on my own. So I kind of understand. I get that. I understand what you're doing. I understand why you want to do it that way. But I also understand Mr. Pleasant's comments as well, because he does, if he feels that the things aren't moving along, if there's more recreation going on than construction. I mean, I can kind of see some conflict there and some stress that goes along with that. But I think this is a way to do it, but I think you need to be smart about how that goes about and how that construction goes. I know 2 years is the typical. And like I said, I'm currently doing an addition on my house and trying to get materials I'm finding to be, pretty tough. And so I can understand the delay and the extension on that, where believe me, if you're working and you have a job and you both looks like you do, I mean, it's not like you're retired and you're just out there building a home. I think you've got a life, and that also plays into it when you're trying to do it during time off or vacation days or whatnot as well. So, yeah, I see both sides of this story. I understand both sides. I'm living next to one currently, and so I can understand that very well, but I still think it's something that we offer, and it's a right, I think, that people have for some of this. So.
And I agree. I think it's part of the beauty of living out in the county. It's not a 7,500 square foot residential lot. It's a 3-acre lot. It's not within, a full 50 house subdivision, that's fully erected. I think it is the beauty of the county that we live in, that we're able to do some of these things. Is there any other questions, comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve public hearing number 1, temporary use permit, temporary dwelling for Cody Gray with conditions that have been set.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Do we have any final comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries with majority vote. We'll move into public hearing number 2, which is Mr. Gray for a temporary use permit for temporary storage.
Sorry, we're double tasking back here trying to.
No
do
worries.
minutes
You
and
go right
present.
ahead.
Madam Chairs.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you being the secretary. Thank you.
Madam Chair, on a good note, we did hire a planner.
Oh,
conditional, so.
Hey,
Whatever.
good. Awesome.
Okay, our second public hearing today, Cody and Brittany Gray are the property owners, and Cody Gray is the applicant as well. We're still talking about lot 7 within Ranch View Estates. This is for a temporary use permit for temporary storage on the property. So a little bit different than the temporary dwelling, but we still go through the same criteria and everything. I will ask the board, are there any questions just discussing the time frame? Not the time frame, but basically the past history.
No.
I think Eric kind of helped clarified things a little bit on that, and I don't want to rehash things if it's
No,
not
you're
needed.
fine.
Okay. When Cody came in and applied for this temporary storage permit, one of the things that he needs to do is also submit a site plan showing where the structure is to be located. We've got the plot plan showing where his house is being constructed. Cody does have a pretty unique piece of property to where it's 3 acres. You've kind of got the top half where he's doing a house that has a walkout basement and everything, and then you kind of go down to where it levels out and goes into the river. And on that lower half, as you can see, kind of in the north side of the property is where he is proposing to build the canvas structure. It's going to be outside of the utility easements that's there, which also coincides with our 10-foot setbacks for that. So just to give everybody kind of a contents for where the structure is being proposed. Cody Gray is requesting a temporary storage to have a 20 by 30 by 12 canvas storage building, as well as the 28-foot toy hauler on his property. Staff did find that since we were talking about storage in general with this temporary use permit, we wanted to clarify what that toy hauler was being used. I know it's covered under the grading permit, but we're trying to get everything out in the air so everybody knows what is being proposed and what the intended use for is for all the structures and RVs that are out there on the property. So that there's a permit that is defined with that and for the purposes, as well as establishing a time frame for that as well. Both the canvas storage building and the 28-foot toy hauler are Cody would like to have them for storage of construction materials, to store equipment, to also do the whatever he needs to help build and construct his home, as he is the general contractor on this property. Just like he requested a 3-year time period with a temporary dwelling, he's also requesting a 3-year time period for this temporary storage for both of these structures. Typically, when staff permits a temporary storage permit application, be honest, this is the first time I've done a temporary permit one since I've been here, so a little bit of learning process that way. But we do have 5 criteria that we go through, very similar to what we do with a temporary dwelling permit, as we post for 14 days, notify all adjacent landowners. If there's no problems or concerns, staff can issue the permit, provided it meets all these 5 criteria. If there are requests to change or tweak a little bit of these criteria, that's why we're here before you guys today. The typical regulations for a temporary storage permit under section 8E7 are as follows. An approved temporary use permit for temporary storage may be allowed for a maximum of 30 days. One temporary storage building may be permitted for a residential storage on a lot with a legally permitted residential use. A shipping container, portable storage container, or other fully enclosed box-like container designed for ease of loading and transporting from vehicle may be used. A temporary storage building may not be placed on a street, sidewalk, or public right-of-way, or in any location that would impair visibility at an intersection or interfere with vehicular or pedestrian traffic. A temporary storage building may be approved for a period up to 6 months when a dwelling has been damaged or destroyed by a fire, wind, or other catastrophic events, which is not intentionally caused by the owner or owner's agent. A temporary storage building shall not exceed the height of 8.5 feet from the lowest ground level adjacent to the structure to the top. Again, Mr. Zimmerman posted public notice out there to start this public hearing process. And I did just want to take a few pictures of what was out there. The toy hauler is the one in the top left, showing that that was being used for storing things when we approved the grading permit. It is still out on the property when I went there last week. The forms, I believe, is that bottom right. The concrete forms is what is being showed right next to that toy hauler. For right now, that's what they're wanting to put in that canvas structure so that it's out of Mother's Nature beauty that we have during the winter, and also possibly some of the other equipment that's out on site. And we'll jump right back into the same review criteria that we used last go around for the previous public hearing. The request shall not adversely affect adjacent properties. Staff does not find that this will adversely affect adjacent properties. Timeframes will be recommended to be put on the permit. Staff also recommends putting renewal information as a condition if allowed. Staff also recommends that once construction is complete of the primary residence, that if the 20 by 30 by 12 canvas storage building is wanting to be kept on the property, that it needs to be properly permitted with a residential construction permit. Criteria number 2, the request is compatible with existing allowable uses of adjacent properties. Just like with a temporary dwelling, temporary storage is allowed to be permitted via temporary use within an R1 zone property per our district use chart within our zoning regulations. Criteria number 3, the request can demonstrate adequate provisions for maintenance of the use and associated structures. The proposed canvas storage building and the 28-foot toy hauler are not proposed to be with any easements and are completely away from any public streets. Typically, accessory structures can be built at the same time as a primary structure. They are just unable to be used until the primary structure has been completed. This is kind of paraphrased a little bit from section 4B1 of our regulations, and I'll talk a little bit more about that once we get to the last review criteria. Criteria number 4, the request has minimized to the greatest degree possible adverse effects on natural environment. Staff does not see these storage options causing any adverse effects on the natural environment. Both would actually allow Cody Gray to protect construction materials and equipment from the natural elements. Criteria number 5, the request shall not create undue traffic congestion. Staff does not foresee this as it's temporary in nature and also resides on the applicant's property as well. Criteria number 6, the request will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Staff does not see this request causing any adverse effects on the public. The use will be contained to the applicant's own property and aid him in being able to construct his own home. And again, just like the last public hearing, I think criteria number 7 is the most applicable one. Does the request conform to all applicable provisions of this zoning resolution? For section 4B1, it states a permitted use or structure must be established on a lot or parcel before an accessory use or structure is allowed to be established or utilized. Staff does find that if this request is approved, it would meet all applicable provisions of our Sweetwater County zoning resolution by conforming with section 4B2, just the next section down. Only one permitted use shall be allowed per lot or parcel unless multiple uses are permitted through a conditional use, temporary use, or major site plan process. We did receive the exact same comments that we did on the last public hearing. I don't think I need to read those into the record. Everybody can see those. And staff does recommend approval of this temporary storage with the following 5 conditions. The 20 by 30 by 12 canvas storage building for storage of construction materials and equipment. The 28-foot toy hauler is for storage of construction materials and equipment. The 3-year time frame from the approval of Board of County Commissioners or when residential construction of the primary dwelling has been completed or whichever comes first. At such time, the canvas building will need to be permitted as an accessory structure, being an approved construction permit. If the primary dwelling has not been completed within the above defined 3-year time period, the canvas building will need to be removed completely from the property. This permit cannot be renewed or extended. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Megan. Mr. and Mrs. Gray, is there anything you would like to add to the presentation?
Excuse me?
Is there anything you'd like to add or say? Yep.
Yeah, no, we just wanted to comment on, so for the enclosed trailer, the request for that is that's something we can put, very expensive equipment under lock and key. The canvas storage or none of the other places, we can put equipment, I've got multi-$1,000 laser level equipment. And then all the equipment that goes along with construction, whether it's a table saw or saws or equipment, there's things I don't want to load up and haul home every single day. And I don't want to leave out there adjacent to the interstate for anyone to roll in and load up a truck full of stuff. So that's the reason we're requesting for the enclosed trailers, something that I can put under lock and key. The canvas storage, that's for, you saw in the picture, for like the forms, those styrofoam forms. Mother Nature's going to wreak havoc on that styrofoam over the winter. We're not able to get it in before this winter sets in. We're going to have to do it next spring. I need to be able to store those. I have a great deal of just OSB form boards for footers and things like that. Leaving that in the winter, that's no good come next year. And I'm going to be buying that material again. That just sets us further back and further in the hole in cost trying to build this house. So I feel like our requests are reasonable. And in addition to it cleans up the property. So we don't have stuff stacked up everywhere in piles in different places. We're able to put it inside an enclosure, keep it tidy and keep it neat and keep it, looking appropriate and like it's expected to look. So.
I think the other thing I would add that was mentioned earlier was the visibility piece. Again, just about the way our property is that there is about an acre up top where all the rest of the subdivision is. And then there's a steep grade that about 2 acres are down below. So there's no visibility issues because you can't see what's on the bottom part of our property from the regular area in the subdivision. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open it up to the public for public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to say anything. If you'll state your name for the record for
Hi,
us.
my name's Steve Ferguson. I live the first property just adjacent on the other side of Firehole Basin Road. And just have a general comment about storage of materials out there. We've Mr. Gray's been working on his property for a couple of years now almost, and there's been a wide variety of construction equipment, construction materials stored up on the Firehole Basin Road level. And so it impedes our view. And like right now, there's been a dump truck sitting in the middle of that property for nearly a month and used sparingly. So I just have a general concern about how they're going to store property, and I would ask that there might be some provisions in the agreement that it doesn't affect the view, or I don't know if there are current regulations about storing equipment.
Is it where
and
their house will be? I mean, is it gonna?
It's on the property, and it's, right now, it's, the dump truck is right behind where they're have done the digging, the dirt work. So, you know, prior to that, there was a large amount of culverts just stacked out there over last winter, and again, it's just a view issue for us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, my name's still Andy Pleasant.
Perfect.
Anyway, guys, the conditional use permit on the storage shed too. There is no guarantees that there's ever going to be a house built up there. There's a building permit taken out. There's some lines on a piece of paper. And we're already talking about this being another accessory building. I still don't care about how many acres there are in this lot. It is a lot in a residential subdivision. This is not rural Sweetwater County land that's out here. Granted, it might be a bigger lot at 3 acres, but the precedents that we're winding up setting. Now we can have RVs out there by buying a lot. We can go park our RVs out there and live there for 3 years by taking out a building permit. Now I can also do a storage shed to park all my toys in. My boats, my boat motors, I'll guarantee you, this is the stuff going in this shed. Now, your storage for your building materials, we all know what happens to a 2x4. It's gonna warp, it's gonna go bad. If we're waiting for 3 years before we use this board, chances are it's gonna be bad. Now, everybody's saying in all best intentions, lest we need it for storage for our materials. But make no doubt about it, it's going to have four-wheelers, side-by-sides, boats, boat motors, the other things that are stored on this property inside that shed. Now, granted, it's probably gonna make it look better, but once again, there's no guarantees of how big that house is gonna be, because there's a Sweetwater ordinance that says square footage, percentage of your accessory buildings cannot exceed the square footage of your home. We have nothing other than some lines on a piece of paper. There's nothing being built. And yet we're giving away everything on good faith that all this stuff's gonna be done in 3 years' time from now. Once again, he's had a building permit for 18 months and it's due to expire in 3 months. So you can see that there's not really been a lot of stuff done. And once again, we're letting this stuff go out for 3 years' time. I'm in the construction business. I know all about storage and storage on site. Normally, you don't even want to buy that stuff until you're ready to use it because it's gonna go bad. Whether it's inside that building or whether it's sitting on the job site, it's going to go bad. I've yet to ever have to build a project where I have to go build storage sheds on the site to hold what few boards it takes to build a house. It's not required. Once again, 5 homes have been built up there. One of them was built by the individuals themselves. They did not require special needs of a storage building up there they built their home and they did it at night and on the weekends and they got it done in less than a year. Your building permit's only good for 18 months, yet we're allowing them 3 years, you know? So once again, I have a hard time with this, you guys, and you know, yeah, I'm down below. I get to see this. It has no adverse effect on anybody up above. I'm down below. You know, it's affecting us and our property. You know.
And I guess in what way is it affecting you and your property?
We have to look over there. Currently, right now, it looks like a storage yard over there. We have everything from half a dozen trailers, or I'm going to say whether they be RVs or flatbed trailers or car haulers. enclosed trailers, we have tractors, we have brush
Once,
beaters, we
once
have
they
boats,
build their
boat
house,
motors.
you know, once they build their house and they're part of the community out there, how is that going to be any different, I guess?
At that
that-
point in time, it won't. But in the meantime, yard is being used as a storage yard. Is what I'm looking at. That's why I say deny these applications, make them build their house and come out and be part of our community. Otherwise, you know, other people coming into this community are gonna say, wait a minute, all this stuff, you know, and you don't even have to build a house. This affects your property next door. You know, as Mark had said, he's living next door to one and has been. It does affect your property and how people look at it. And that's where this board can stop that stuff and make Mr. Gray just go build his house like everybody else. Go get a loan if you don't have the money and build your house and get it done in a proper time frame. You know, that's where I keep coming back to. And that way we don't have these issues. And the plans and drawings are already showing additional buildings up there. When does Sweetwater County now start allowing additional accessory buildings on residential subdivision lots? This is not rural agriculture, yet we're already talking about it. So you can see the precedence this building is going to start making too. Is now we're going to have 2, 3, 4, 5 accessory buildings on this property. This is still a residential property, regardless of the size. It was in a residential subdivision and is intended that way. Please keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to say anything? I guess I should have checked. We don't have anybody on Zoom, do we? Sorry, I should have checked earlier. Do we have anybody on? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion, open it back up to the board for any questions for the applicants or anybody in the audience. Megan, Eric?
I think just a comment that I have, I mean, as much as we agree or disagree or don't like what we have on some of these things, we follow what our rules and our regulations are. And so what our goal here is to make sure that we give everybody that fair shake and opportunity to be able to do some of the things that we have set in our bylaws and our regulations. And so, I think that's our goal up here, is to make sure we appreciate the comments, because believe me, that's what helps us
Absolutely.
make our decisions up here as well. And that's one of the things we look at and try to factor in. But like I said, for the most part, we try to follow the rules that we've helped create and put together. So.
Thank you. I agree completely. Kelly, is there anything you'd like to add or say?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing nothing else, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve public hearing number 2, temporary use permit, temporary storage for Cody Gray, with conditions set by staff.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Any final comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion does carry. Okay. And this one does need to go in front of county commissioners. Okay, so the county commissioners meeting will be on the 21st, next Tuesday. It starts at 9 a.m. I'm not sure you'll be out on the agenda, but if you could please attend. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Eric. I was just gonna see if somebody will grab them. All right, we are back to a full board. We'll go ahead and start into public hearing number 3, John and Rita Isaacson, the John and Rita Isaacson subdivision. It's a preliminary plot extension number 1.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Property owner to the 37.26 acres located out north of Rock Springs is John and Rita Isaacson, both of which are the applicant. Currently, the property is zoned single family residential, which is R2SF. with a minimum lot size overlay of 2 acres. They are also located within the growth management area. Infrastructure, they are within the 10-mile water and sewer district. Individual septic is proposed to be allowed on each lot. Fire District Number 1 is the responding agency. Rocky Mountain Power will provide power out there, and proposed access to all lots within the subdivision will be off of Appaloosa Drive, which is a proposed county road. As you can see, most of the property in the area is zoned similarly with the single-family residential and has varying lot sizes out there. Most of the subdivisions out there are around 2 or 4 acres with a lot size overlay. As we've seen before, this is the proposed actual preliminary plat subdivision that got approved by you guys in December of last year, December 14th. Basically, the reason why we're here today is final plat application has not been completed or submitted. For what we have in our current subdivision regulations, the applicants can request up to 3 one-year extensions. So we could go through this potentially 3 separate times. This is just the first of what could happen 3 times. There's no one of those. I've talked with Eric on this. This is the first in my little 4 years that I've been here. It's never happened since Eric's been here. So this is a new thing for the department in general. So we're trying to make sure we're covering our basis and just making sure everybody's kind of on the same page moving forward and making sure we're documenting things as we can. And the easiest way we can do that is by updating the P&Z authorization. In order for the applicant to be considered for a 1-year extension, there's 4 criteria that needs to be adhered to. Documentation of all approved governing agencies and departments concur with a proposed extension. Documents need to be extended that have been extended, or documents that they have with certain utility companies or public safety providers that they support the extension. Evidence that no major preliminary plat amendments are required, and also that the plat is still compatible with the surrounding area and in compliance with current regulations. The way Eric and I interpret these regulations is that because we are considering, again, still trying to find time, we want to get these subdivision regulations up to date. It's not fair for someone who starts the process and us going through and changing it halfway and then them having to change or fall under a new subset of rules that they didn't know when they started the process to this subdivision. So this is one of those kind of checkpoints that are put in place with our regulations that helps protect the applicants. Something else that staff has tried to do with the comment process, this was put out to every agency that we have here. If they have comments, they respond. If they have concerns, they respond. If we get no response, it's taken as a no comment, no concerns. So that's how staff is able to remedy basically those first 2 requirements. We hashed most of this stuff out at the meeting last December, making sure the applicant and the engineering company were aware of what was expected to change or needed on the the final plat application. The majority of that kind of surrounded the access off the Appaloosa Drive, including the lot 1, which is where Rita's and John's house currently resides. So nothing really has changed there. Basically, all there is requesting, hey, can we put a pause on this? Give us another time frame. Something else that Eric and I talked about is the time frame's not going to be from today. We're going to have it extended from December 14th just to keep with the 1 year going from there. Hard thing with the applicants, and like you guys know, in order to get on this agenda and get scheduled for you guys and the Board of County Commissioners, you're almost kind of 2 months out in advance. We did recommend them coming in September so that they could be heard in November. We're very grateful for that. We don't like getting pushed up to the end and trying to hurry and try and get all these things under the last minute. So that's something we thank them for. Does anybody have any questions on that, or why we're here today, what we will potentially be approving?
No, I do like the fact that we would do it from December from the original, so I think it's easier to track rather than meeting to meeting or however, so I do think that's very smart and it'll be maybe a little more congruous that we know date-wise where we're at.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Don't want to bore anybody else. We've kept the same exact conditions of approval that we did on the last preliminary plat. The only thing I changed was clarifying the expiration date. And I have a typo on that. I am so sorry. That's a copy. It will be November 14th of 2025.
Okay.
No. No,
It
it
would be
sorry,
December.
it is December. I'm on the,
Hmm.
I'm thinking, construction permits, those are 18 months, usually add 1 year. And so my apologies, please ignore that. So I do have the correct date in there. Any questions for me? Rita is also here if you do have questions for her as well.
Mrs. Isaacson, is there anything that you'd like to come up and say? Or add to?
Yes, I just want to say we are still very much working on our subdivision, moving forward. We had a partner back out, so we have a new plan in order. It's just getting it all to come together, but we are in process of working on it and hopefully we'll be ready to go soon.
I just can't believe it's been a year ago. I just thought it was a couple months ago. I was like, surely it was not a year ago we looked at this, but I guess it is.
It's amazing how
Oh,
fast. the year
yes,
goes.
yes.
Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to say anything about public hearing number 3. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion and open it back up to the board. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant or Megan comments? No, pretty straightforward. Okay, and do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we extend the primary plat extension 1 year out to the new date of 12/14/2024
And with staff recommendation?
with staff recommendation.
Thank you.
I second.
We have a first and a second. Any final questions, comments? All those please, in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and motion does carry. Perfect. All right. Do we have any other old business or other business?
Madam Chair, so next month we'll have the housing amendments to help with, to assist with housing, higher density housing subdivision. So we will have that before you. We did receive a, sketch plat for comment, and it was a high density subdivision being proposed south on 191. So, there's a desire out there. There's going to be a housing need, as you know, the large projects that are coming in, with, with Pacific Soda, Project West, those Trona mine expansions, and then the Natrium facility and the spillover from that into our county. So, and then carbon capture also. So there's a lot of projects coming in and a lot of housing needs. So I'm glad to hear, Rita, that things are moving forward with that. There's definitely a housing need out there. So I appreciate that. So, but anyway, that's what we have, Madam Chair. So that will be next month.
Perfect. Any other hearings that we know of? So mostly, oh, okay, that's a switch.
It'll just be the language amendments,
Okay.
which I think will be good to just focus on those. that
Absolutely.
Need
Awesome.
work.
Anything else anybody has? All right, we will go ahead and adjourn. It is 11:01.